The salon and spa industry has had a lot of stigmas over the years, and we're out to change that once and for all. Check out today's show.
Salon owners are some of the most amazing people on planet Earth. The only problem is sometimes their hearts are so big and they give so much of themselves to their staff and guests that it creates unintended consequences. Our goal is to change the industry by elevating the way the rest of the world sees salons, spas, and barbershops and give it the credibility that it truly deserves. This is the Salon Owner Evo Revo Show.
So here's the deal, man. Doug, you know the drill. Every time you turn around, somebody has got some opinion about the salon and spa industry, like, oh, this must be for people who couldn't get into college. This must be for people who couldn't get a real job. I think that there's a lot of people out there that genuinely believe that this industry, and it's not, by the way, but it's a second-class citizen job. And I say that knowing it's going to make some people mad, especially watching this podcast, right? If you're listening to this podcast, I know that probably gets under your skin, but you know it. You've lived it. You've been in it. And you're trying to figure out.
They look at you as a different caliber of person.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. It's like, like the thing we just got back from this weekend with our high octane adventures, where we take the salon owners on these really cool, fun things, and people say, well, group of hairdressers, what they expect to show up and what shows up is two totally different things.
Completely.
It's always amazing to watch people say, holy cow, I had no idea that this would be, because it's one, people that love to have fun, high energy, want to get into it, want to live an amazing life, and have amazing adventures. So, I mean, I think it's always interesting to watch, because you just see the stigma, the perception that people have when we show up. And it's totally different when we walk away.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is the really interesting thing in my mind. So Doug and I just got back. It's why I'm wearing my my tank gear today. I got my my tank hat. Let's see if I can get this up here. I got my tank hat. I got my my dog tags from this event that we did this weekend. And we did what we call a high octane adventure. And what that means is it's where we get together with about a dozen of the most incredible salon owners from all over the world. And we do something that pushes them way outside their comfort zone and give them an experience of something that is forever life-altering and life-changing, that they can take all of that experience, go back inside their salon, and become some of the best leaders, teachers, trainers, business owners on the planet because of that experience. And I hopefully can cue this up real quick. There's a video of what we did with these tanks. Let's see if we can get that video up. I'd love to see if we can roll that for you, because
Yeah, here we go. Okay, so we're actually inside that tank that's right there. You can see it. It's actually a World War II British tank. And as you can see, they've got two cars lined up for us that are right there. And if you see, okay, there we go. We're moving forward to that, and we're driving. There we go. Coming up on it, you can see the kind of drone flying off of there. It's not an alien spaceship. All right, so coming up on it. Watch how high this thing pitches up. This is ridiculous. Yep, there it is. You can hear it crunching it. Oh, it just demolished those cars. So good. Oh man, that's amazing.
if you're one of those people that were like, okay, now, and I want to say this because we questioned from a military standpoint on, is this in good taste? Is this not? I'll be really honest that I wanted to make sure as we were talking about this, that people kind of had a good understanding of why we did the things that we did. And here's the thing. I think that going and driving those tanks and checking that out actually gave me so much more appreciation for the military than I've ever had in my entire life. Because I looked at it and I really imagined these, 20-something-year-old guys that voluntarily sign up for the military, going out and operating these things and realizing what they're walking into. And that was a profound thing for me. And I think that, being able to have that type of experience and being able to relate to what military goes through, what everybody goes through, it gives you a totally different scenario. It gives you a different impression.
Like when we were going through the trails and stuff and going through water and doing all the different things, personnel carriers, tanks that had personnel carriers incorporated in them. And just that you put yourself in the mindset of those people. I mean, not totally. You still get the feel like, what would this be like for that person to be going in there? It was surreal at moments of, that you open up that hatch or you turn that turret and there's someone shooting at you. So I think that's was pretty. A lot of people commented on that. One, it's amazing equipment, amazing technology, but also a lot of respect for the people that, like you said, volunteer and show up and put themselves in that position.
That's right. And I just want to say, if you know somebody in the military, if you know somebody or you've been in the military, just say me in the comments section, meaning you know somebody. If you know somebody, I know my little brother is in the military. He's in the Army. He works on a lot of diesel vehicles, and just gave me a totally different respect for what he does on a day-to-day basis, because these machines were just some of the most incredible things that we've ever had the privilege of being exposed to. Now, let's talk about this from a business perspective for a second. And by the way, if you're on with us live, do me a favor and comment inside the podcast here. Just say you're on with us live. I'd love to know who's on with us live and where you're from. Type in what city you're on from. If you're listening to it on the podcast later, you can just yell at your phone or radio and just say what city you're in. And I heard you. I heard it right there. No, for those of you that didn't yet, just yell it. I'll hear it. But the idea is when we take people out to these adventures, we go, well, what are you going to take with you? And I think it was really fascinating. I think one of the big business lessons, Doug, for me out of driving those tanks is one of the tanks we got to drive, and I wish I knew what it was called. One of the tanks that we got to drive had a periscope, right? Mm-hmm. Had a periscope. What was really interesting is that you had to navigate from this little teeny tiny periscope, and there's what's called a tank commander that's on the vehicle, and the tank commander had to call out how you're driving, meaning they'd say left, right. They would kind of keep you on track. And what was fascinating is, even though you were the driver, you couldn't see where you were going as well as you needed to. And what they said is that from the driver's seat of a lot of those tanks, you have to rely on multiple points to verify where that tank is. Because we're not talking about your brand new Escalade with 15 backup cameras here. We're talking about these big giant tanks. And so the backup camera, forward-facing camera, and sensors that were all over this thing are the other bodies on this tank giving you feedback and input, and the tank commander is telling you which way to drive. And so as we're pulling these giant levers to try and keep it straight, they said you will think that you are driving correctly, but you have to rely on your tank commander. And how often in life is that true, right? Where you're doing something, you think you're driving, you think you are paying attention to what's going on, and you think you're going straight, or you think you're not going to crash, but somebody else says, hey, wait a second, there's something going on. There's something that you need to be aware of. There's something you can't see, and you need to take that direction. But how often do we as salon owners, or do we as business owners miss that direction or second guess that direction? And here's the thing. What they said really well about this adventure is they're like, listen, you're about to drive this tank, and it's designed to do one thing, kill you. So be aware that everything you do is super important, and you have to listen to your tank commander. Otherwise, you will get flattened by this tank. This tank does not care. And in fact, as we ran over those vehicles and they felt like they were little tiny speed bumps, we realized how much power these things had. And that, again, it would just go through. They had walls and walls of cement barricades and blockades that you would, potentially go if the tank got out of control on this property that we were at. And I think it's just a reminder that sometimes we really, as business owners, can't see our own blind spots. We need somebody else guiding us and instructing us and giving us some feedback, because you just have to have a different point of view. You have to have some different perspective. You have to have somebody paying attention to that. Yeah, Doug?
Yeah, I mean, so like I said, where you're sitting in that tank, you actually need to be straddling. Your butt needs to be straddling the right track, but your brain wants you to center things up. And right. I think that's the same thing, like you said, in business. Sometimes we want to follow our instincts, but our instincts are sometimes wrong, and we need someone from the outside giving us perspective. This is where, and then once you get there and once you understand things, then you get it, you get comfortable with it. But until someone told you to do it differently, otherwise, I mean, would have continued where we were on some of those corners, you wouldn't have made it. You would have taken out a tree.
Yeah.
So
somebody did take out a tree, by the way. I'm pretty sure one tree went down while we were there.
Yeah, there was. I remember the guy going tree. Uh-oh. But I mean, it's good. It was a good perspective for people to have. Is that sometimes, one, as a business owner, it's hard to trust other people, right? It's hard to trust someone else. It's your baby, and when you're in that tank driving, you're like, "Well, I'm driving this thing," but then you've got to let someone else to be able to do it correctly. And I think that's a good analogy for. I think in any business, you got to have somebody from the outside that has your best interest at heart, giving you those directions. And then the other side of it is you have to listen and accept those things. It's like, if you got there and you were arguing with the tank commander about where you really needed to be, it's not going to work. And there's going to be a lot of frustration there on both sides. And same thing in the business world. Sometimes you got to listen, you got to give in, there needs to be a high level of trust on both sides. And I think that's where, as in that tank, as in business, that's where you really can to maximize the results is when you get to that point. But it does take the outside person and that level of trust.
Yeah. One other big lesson, by the way, if you're digging the lessons, do me a favor and type lessons in the chat. Because one other really important lesson, Doug, that I got out of this, we were talking about with my group of these salon owners, is what happened for me is I love to drive. I love to be in charge. I love to be in control of things. That's probably why I'm a business owner, right? I don't like, jumping into somebody else's business. I like jumping into my own business. And so when we got the opportunity to drive, I was one of the first people, like, in our group, they said, who wants to drive? I'm like, of course, I'll drive. And I drove that tank hard, man. I drove it as fast as I could. We ripped through everything. We were cutting around, doing all this stuff. I punched it through this big giant mud puddle, splashed everything up on everybody. And when I got to the end, I drove another tank. We drove around everything. And then after the second tank drive, I got to be a passenger. And I stood up top on the tank as I was a passenger with somebody else driving. And I was yanked all over the place. Like I was literally getting knocked around the tank. I'm getting bumped around and knocked around. And I had no idea. And this was really interesting. And this was a big lesson for me. I had no idea what the experience was as a passenger because I was the first driver. And it was very interesting because they were much nicer to me because they had been passengers the first round, right? So when they were driving, they were much nicer. And I just realized at that point, how often do I create chaos as the driver of my business and I don't pay enough attention to how it impacts my passengers? That was a big lesson for me, is that sometimes as a driver, by the way, if you're a driver, right? If you're one who likes to drive, you like to be in charge, you like to be in control, write driver in here. Because I realize that very often I drive, and it's not very often that I ride shotgun, no pun intended, but I ride passenger, or I ride in the passenger seat with somebody else driving and get to experience what it's like. And it was a reminder to me that it is extremely critical. It's really important that you take a passenger seat to somebody else driving every once in a while. Otherwise, you lose touch of what it's like to be a passenger. Because sometimes I'm just charging through and heading down this path and forgetting what it's like to be a passenger, or just simply not knowing. I haven't been in that spot, haven't run a business at that size with a team that have this other problem. I got to know what that's like. If you can relate to that, do me a favor and type in relate into the chat. Yeah, Doug, anything you want to say about that, man? I know you and I hadn't had a chance to talk about that one.
Yeah, I think that is important. Whenever Greg and I were in the personnel carrier part of that one tank, you can't see anything when you're in there. You're locked down. Nothing. You're in the belly of the beast. And one other person was driving, and she got to go in, and she got a little fast there, and we hit something. The thing jumped up. Russ, pretty big fella. He hits his head on the top of the thing. Two of the hatches fly open, and we're like, "What in the world just happened?" Yep. But to your point, sometimes we do that to our team, and we don't even realize that we're doing it to them. And so right. It's something looking ahead. Sometimes you got to look back and check in with your team and see how's it going, how's everybody doing. Are we in this together? Because when you can't see something coming, so you got to think about that. How often is your team? They don't know what's coming. Where you do know, right. Maybe you need to relate a little better. Hold on, this is going to be a bumpy ride. To give them some heads up, because then I think there again, I kept thinking about the trust thing all weekend with everything we did. There was a lot of trust stuff that had to happen, and I think that's super important with your team. And people talk about how do you build cohesiveness with your team? How do you do those things? I think it all starts with trust. Are you building a level of trust that your team knows that you've got their best interest at heart, and that you're in it together? And if you don't, I think that's something maybe you want to focus on, because that was a big thing that kept coming up for me this weekend. Yeah.
You got a picture, if you can throw up the photo for me of everybody from the tank experience, that would be awesome. If you got that photo you can throw up, I'd love to have that up here. But I just want to say this was the group right here. There they are. Look at that motley crew of crazies there. We had this whole posse of people went out and drove these tanks. It was extraordinary. Great group of people. And I just want to say this about that experience. There are so many more lessons. By the way, speaking of lessons, is a quick commercial for something else that we're doing here. We're going to be unpacking some of these lessons and many more coming up on October 19th. We've got a brand new, never before done event from us here at the High Performance Salon Academy. It's called the Salon and Spa 2020 Bounce Back. How to make sure that you crush all of your goals in 2020, pun intended, because we just talked about crushing tanks, pun intended. How do you crush all of your goals from 2020, even if you were closed for 3 months or more? And if you're a salon owner, a spa owner, a lash bar owner, and you want to learn how you can actually make more money than you ever have before as take-home profit in your salon, not top-line revenue, but take-home profit, then we're doing this event called Salon and Spa 2020 Bounce Back coming up on October 19th. If you've already got a ticket, do me a favor and say, I have one. If you want to get a ticket, just comment with the words bounce back, all one word, bounce back, into the comment section, and we'll make sure that we get you tickets. By the way, the good news is the tickets are FREE, free. They are totally free. All you have to do is register to come. We did that because we just realized there were so many salons. In fact, I was just on the phone getting approved for this building loan that I'm working on, and they asked us, they said, how the heck did you guys stay in business through this this coronavirus? And I said, because we served our face off. We found ways for salon owners to find $25,000 to $75,000 more worth of new profit. We found ways for salon owners to rebuild or build from scratch their online presence, to do online booking, to do virtual appointments, to do all these things. And at that Salon and Spa 2020 Bounce Back, we're going to share with you ideas that would not only help you make this the best year you've ever had, but survive if for any reason that something like that ever happens again, which I do not wish on anybody. You'll know how to handle it. So if you want to take it to the Bounce Back event that we have coming up October 19th, clear off your schedule, get there, and we'll send you the link so you can get registered for free. We'd love to have you there. So Doug, one of the other things that we do something called a wild card adventure, right? Where we don't tell people what we're going to do and we take them somewhere. Are you just okay if we just roll the clip from one of these things that we did for Bounce Back, the race part here? You good with that?
Sure.
Okay, so this is actually Todd Freeman winning lap of the entire thing over at ERX.
All right, Todd has basically caught Judy here. We'll see how this works out. Provided Todd does not scare the crap out of Judy, he should be doing all right.
Awesome. Watch this jump. This is amazing. Look how high he gets. Come on! How good is that?
So we drove these razors. We drove through. We did a trail ride. We did a bunch of donuts around inside this inside this big dirt pit, and then we got to go actually out on the track where they do the trophy trucks. And they drive these razors around. And I'm just gonna say this: I have never left the ground in a vehicle before in my life. I didn't do like skate parks or anything like that, but something about mashing on the gas and going 50 plus miles, 50, 60 miles an hour and leaving the ground in a vehicle was life-changing for me. Like, Doug, had you ever left the ground in a vehicle before?
Yeah, I've done some of that stuff before.
Clearly,
It's
this
fun,
guy's already.
It's a great feeling. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. As I say, going through those trails, I mean, the speed that you can get through those trails, the things that those things can handle. And think about it, what was great is the place that we went for, like, we're going to do this trail and we're just going to kind of take it easy, but these
not at all.
What they thought were timid salon owners kept staying on the guy's butt. So he kept speeding up and speeding up and speeding up. So that first run, I mean, we were pushing it. We were pushing it pretty hard. I was amazed that they let us go that hard right out of the gate. And then we went to the motocross track, and then we did that as the small truck track that they do, official national truck racing track. And just amazing. I was impressed how they really let us go, and they were impressed. They actually, when we were down there doing the time trials, at the end, they actually called back to their headquarters and said, you guys need to leave the shop and come down here and watch this group. It's like they are going all out. So everybody from the business came down to the track and got up in the tower and watched us, and they were blown away. There again, it's like, okay, we did not expect this from a bunch of hairdressers. It's not what we expected to happen. They were blown away. I mean, it just gunned it. And, there was a couple of them got rolled, but they're safe. You're buckled in.
Listen, they said that in the whole time they've been open, they've only rolled 3 vehicles. And we set out, I don't know if that was a record we wanted to beat or not exactly, but we did roll 3 vehicles in the just one day we were there. So, for what it's worth. And I say that only because everybody was pushing really, really hard. And when, like what Doug said about them coming out and watching us, they said, they literally were like, These guys are the most fun group we've ever had. I've never seen people laugh so hard in my life because we're, you know, we're freaking out. And again, I can talk about this nicely because everybody was safe. But every time somebody rolled a vehicle, I roll the vehicle because I was pushing hard, showboating for this, you know, doing some donuts, and roll the vehicle. We were laughing hysterically. Todd and I were dying. Lindsay Haney and
Amy
Roslin rolled the vehicle on that track. They literally jumped, got up, got a little sideways, freaked out, rolled the thing. And they were laughing so hard they could barely breathe. Everybody was fine, but they were laughing hysterically. And they were just like, these guys are super, you know, they're all okay. They're having the time of their lives. And they just wanted to see the joy that we were having as we experienced this thing. If that's something you would ever do me a favor and say, I would, in the comments section. If you ever do something like this, go drive tanks, go do this. Because again, going back to this idea of changing the stigma of the salon and spa industry, is that we want this to be a ripple effect that goes out to everybody and says, look, this isn't a bunch of people who, like, you know, don't have fun, don't have a good time, don't push themselves, don't do these. These people are some of the most amazing business owners, get some of the deepest insights, leave some of the best impressions, and some of the most amazing people on planet Earth that get to come out and do these experiences. And whether we change people's minds one at a time, we go to a track day like this, or we do it in mass, like talking to people now and being able to show some of these videos and show how incredible some of these salon owners are as extraordinary business owners, businessmen and businesswomen, to be able to do what they do every single day. It's a really powerful experience to be able to share some of that. Right.
Yeah, I think one of the things that the breakthrough thing for people to push themselves, because people did things, they always do things on these trips that we do that they've never done before, and but they do it and they push through it and they have that breakthrough moment, and then you take it back and say, okay, so what have I been afraid to do in business? What have I been timid about in business? And then they go back and they attack it. I mean, you get re-energized. It's like one of the things I thought was really cool. People said, you know, I forgot that I have any responsibility whatsoever, that I own a business, that anyone depends on. I totally was in the moment, just getting, you know, just living life. And it's like, okay, what if you can figure that out in doing your business? It's like our last training, you know, is the thrill. The only emotion you should feel is the thrill of the ride, being in business. So you know, taking that back and saying, you know, enjoy everything you do. Take some risks. Push it to the limit. You may roll over. You have to get up. You have to flip your car back over and get going again. But talk about the right attitude, right? You know, no one was mad. No one was upset. They laughed. They said, yeah, it's because I was pushing myself. I was enjoying. I had a group of people around me pushing me too, that wanted to see me do great. And that's kind of a microcosm of what we do, you know, with the Academy. They got a group of people that all want to see each other do great. We try to push people to be and see what they can do. And these things just really take it to the next level, because it's that confidence thing. And when you take a risk and you overcome it, then you can take that and build your confidence to take on more risk and be willing to give yourself permission to enjoy it.
Yeah. It's all about taking that level of risk tolerance, pushing yourself past that point, because when you can do it on a track, you can do it on a tank, you can do it in all sort of situations, including in your business. And the analogies that come from that, and this is why I think it's so profound, is so many other places out there tell you, well, here's what you need to know, here's what you need to know, and they tell you what to do. They tell you how to be a better business owner. Our job is to let you get an experience that is the teacher. Because as cool as Doug and I are at teaching, we're much better at giving you and providing you with an experience that will help you have a profound, life-changing experience that changes how you forever work as a business owner. That's our goal every time we do a high octane adventure. I have a quote in my office at my work, because I'm at my home office today, that says, only those that are willing to push themselves too far will ever know how far they can actually go. And I think that's how we work. That's how these high octane adventures go. That's what we do inside our academy. If you want information about joining our academy and surrounding yourself with other salon owners, no, you don't have to drive tanks. That's not a part of our daily inside the High Performance Salon Academy. But if you do want to surround yourself with literally hundreds of other salon owners that are in the struggle with you, figuring out what they need to do every single day to grow, develop, get better, and push themselves to the limit of what they can do in life and in business, then do me a favor, just comment with the word Academy. We'll get you some information about the Academy. You can do an interview and see if you'd be a good fit for what it is that we're doing, because we don't let everybody in. You got to be the right type of person, and we want to make sure that you are high energy and you are looking to massively grow. We're looking for very ambitious people that want to grow and want to do things, because that's who is already in our program. So guys, I hope this podcast has been good for you. You've enjoyed it. I certainly have, because we just, we went and had a bunch of fun, had a bunch of business lessons that have now come back. I want to share those lessons with you. And it's going to be a blast. We're excited to have you guys coming up for October 19th for the Salon and Spa Bounce Back. Again, if you want a ticket, do me a favor, just comment Bounce Back, and we will see you guys at that next event or next Thursday on our podcast. Thanks so much for being on, Doug.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Evo Revo podcast. If you liked today's episode, please subscribe, leave us a review, and you can always get more information, including show notes and the video episodes at evorevopodcast.com.